Hey, it's Josh Jacobs, and you're listening to Fantasy Football Counselor.
Happy Thursday, everybody. Joseph Robert, the Fantasy Football Counselor. We are talking starts and sits going into week 2. Thursday night football here tonight. Not the most exciting game. We got Bengals versus Cleveland, but you got to pay attention because we're talking starts and sits for week 2. What's going on? Tim is online with us. What's going on, Tim?
Not much, man. How's it going, brother?
I'm excited, man. I'm excited about week 2. I mean, it's been a couple days without football. I don't really care for tonight's game, Cleveland versus Cincy, but it's football, right? Something to watch.
It's football. It's the only thing to watch tonight. And you never know, man. Sometimes you get these two mediocre teams that just, they have a great game.
All right, tonight right now we're talking about starts and sits week 2. Now, I want to tell everybody how this show is going to be kind of running here so everybody understands. We're going to be talking starts and sits. We're going to go by position because I get asked a lot, Tim, every day, who do I start, this guy or this guy, this guy, this guy? I want to try to make this episode as all-encompassing as possible, covering some of the main trends, main things people are asking. So a lot of people actually asked a lot of questions. We're going to get to a little bit of a Q&A mid-show here. So we're going to start with quarterbacks. We're going to go to wide receivers, and then we're going to do a little bit of a Q&A in the middle. Then we're going to go tight ends and running backs at the end. So I want to let everybody know how this show is pretty much going to be structured. And again, I got a list of a bunch of questions here. Now, if you want to get shouted out on the Starts and Sits show, there is a link below. It's a text me link. Text me, guys, and leave your name if you want. Now, I didn't mention that, Tim, in my story mode, so a lot of people didn't mention their name because I want to shout out some of you guys part of Council Nation. So text me, guys. Also, there's a link in my bio on Fantasy Football Counselor with the number, so you can text your questions, and we'll get to some of them here on the show. We're going to do that mid-show right here, right now. Tim,
can I text you a question like right now?
Go ahead. What do you got?
Okay, so my dilemma this week is Nahim Hines or James White.
All right, let's cover that here. Now, I'm going to lean a little bit towards Nahim Hines. Now, if you look at Nahim Hines last year, and here's the thing. We're going to talk about this when we get to running backs, but I want to just maybe get this out right now. Nahim Hines, last week, 7 attempts on the ground. Not that much, but 8 targets, 8 receptions, and a receiving touchdown. What's so appealing about him? Trust me, I love Jonathan Taylor. I think Jonathan Taylor is the guy. But I just think based on last year's history with Phillip Rivers and Eckler, I think Nahim Hines, and this is a bit of a stretch because again, I'm on the train for Jonathan Taylor. Believe me, he could be a 3-down workhorse, but I just think, Rivers likes to check down. He likes to throw the ball, short passes. Now, he's not the same Rivers from a couple years ago, so I think he's going to throw a lot to Nahim Hines, similarly to the way he did with Eckler. So that's I'm going to go with Nahim Hines here, although Taylor should get his share of work this week.
Yeah, that's good. I was plugging the Hines in, but I still wanted to get your opinion. I mean, Rivers has an easy matchup this week.
Yeah, he does. We're going to get into that. Now, before we get into this, Tim, I'm not an advocate of promoting other people's brands or anything like that, but I will tell you, I pre-ordered a PlayStation 5, and they're hard to get.
Nice.
Now, I got one yesterday, so apparently they said, it's going to be available today, which is the 17th, but last evening I was able to get on, pre-order one, and then I went to check this morning, and you can't get a PlayStation 5 now. You can't pre-order one.
Yeah. So what's it running you?
Well, it depends. So I think it's like $4.99 US or something like that.
Yeah. That's not bad. It's supposed to be fully backwards compatible, man. So I love PlayStation over Microsoft any day. Give me the PlayStation over the Xbox.
Well, Microsoft Series X should be doing their pre-orders on 22nd, but I want the PlayStation. It's a sleek looking system, so I got one. And I got to tell you, man, I'm just so consumed with fantasy football. Honestly, like I'm doing this day and night. And my only kind of break is either working out, spending time with the wife, or watching some Netflix. If I can get some video gaming in there, maybe I'll get back into that because it's been years since I've got into it, and this looks like a good system, so I'm all in.
Yeah, I don't go hardcore, but I have certain games. So, back when the PS3 was out, I was playing The Last of Us, which was an amazing story-based game. And then, so I dropped my systems for a little while. I wasn't playing anything. And then Last of Us 2 comes out. Oh, well, buy a PS4, play Last of Us 2, and then get rid of them both.
Yeah, I mean, that was a good game. So, I mean, let us know, guys, in the comments. Are you guys playing video games, or is it all fantasy and all football for you guys? You got to have, for me, because football is full-time, I got to have a bit of an outlet. So, for you guys, fantasy is your outlet. For me, it's full-time. So, anyway, I had to share that. So, let's move on here. Let's start with the quarterbacks. Again, quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs. We're going to get to your questions midpoint, and maybe your questions are going to be answered because there's a lot of general questions asked this week. All right, so let's go here. Quarterbacks, optimal matchups here. Dak Prescott at home versus Atlanta. Now, I do a DFS show on Saturday, so make sure you guys tune into that. I like Dak's matchup. Phillip Rivers, great matchup versus Minnesota. Jimmy Garoppolo, great matchup. Sam Darnold's got a good matchup against San Fran, basically on paper, but I'm not really sold. I would never start him. Josh Allen versus Miami is a great matchup, although he is on the road. Aaron Rodgers, Mitch Trubisky, and Matt Stafford. Those are really good matchups at quarterback. Do you want to chime in on any of those guys?
No, man. I mean, so I ran into a bit of a dilemma here again as well. I have Matt Ryan as my one and only quarterback. So right. I had Devonta Freeman sitting on my bench. I needed to pick up a quarterback this week. I don't like Ryan's matchup, even though he's a throwing quarterback and it's easy for him to get some work done. I think I picked up Jimmy G for free. So why not?
Yeah, exactly. So I got a question here for you. Now, let's take a look at this. So if you've got a quarterback, okay, I'll give you an example here. Matt Ryan, he's got a pretty tough matchup against Dallas. On paper here, it's like 4th to 5th hardest matchup versus position, a guy that's consistent every single week, okay? And your backup quarterback, let's say it's, I think of an example, Sam Darnold, perfect example. As I say, Sam Darnold's your backup. He's got technically, let's say, a better matchup, right? Do you start your starter or do you start the better matchup? That's a question I get asked all the time.
I know, man, and I get it. Like, even I struggle with it sometimes. And like I say, I'm taking Ryan out to put in Jimmy G. Jimmy G's no slouch, right? So he's got a very easy matchup. To me, it was a no-brainer pickup. A guy like Sam Darnold, where I'm not thrilled with the team at all. Yeah. No, I'm sticking with my starter who has a tougher matchup.
Yeah, I'm the same way as well. So people are saying that, Russell Wilson, do I start him this week? He's got a really tough matchup versus New England because that's where this kind of question came up. So if you are looking at starts and sits, and if you got Russell Wilson, it depends on who your backup is. If your backup is Josh Allen, I'd probably lean Josh Allen. He's got a better matchup, but it's hard to sit Russell Wilson considering he was the number one quarterback from last week. How do you sit a guy coming off such a great week? Great talent. I mean, he's 31 for 35, 4 touchdowns. Is he going to have the same type of week? Not necessarily. He's got a tougher matchup, and he's coming off a pinnacle week, right? Don't always go for recency bias as well. So you got to use a little bit of common sense in your starts and sits, okay? That's very, very important. So week 2 starts and sits. We're talking quarterbacks. Let's go to the tough matchups. And like I said, Russell Wilson is that guy. He's got a tough matchup. So does Deshaun Watson against Baltimore. Matt Ryan against Dallas. Ryan Fitzmagic. I keep calling that. Fitzpatrick against Buffalo. Jared Goff against Philly. Kyler Murray. I mean, not the easiest matchup versus Washington secondary. Gardner Minshew versus Tennessee. Tom Brady versus Carolina. And Ryan Tannehill versus Jacksonville. So these guys, a lot of them good. Kyler Murray had a good week last week. Matt Ryan, Russell Wilson. Just not the most favorable matchups. Am I going to sit Matt Ryan? Probably not. No. Now, there is a one league that I do have Josh Allen, and that I have to make a decision there. But I'm probably going to lean towards Ryan. Still undecided there.
Yeah, it's tough sometimes, guys. It's a flip of the coin, and sometimes you hit it, sometimes you don't.
Exactly. So let's continue on here. Other matchups, and then you have your mid-range matchups. Mahomes should be safe versus the Chargers. It's a mid-range matchup. Carson Wentz, I don't trust him. If you drafted him, man, I don't know what to tell you. I just don't trust him. Teddy Bridgewater, mid-range matchup. Ben Roethlisberger versus Denver, also mid-ranged matchup in and around the middle there. I don't know if I trust him fully, but I think he's going to be good. Actually, I think they're going to get going. They were a little shaky coming out last week. Ben Roethlisberger, Deontay Johnson, Claypool, Juju, all looking good, all in the groove. Tons of weapons there for Ben. He should have a good week as well. And Drew Brees having a mediocre week last week. I'm not fully sold on Drew Brees having those consistent weeks, week in and week out. And I warned you against him, and he finished 23rd, Tim, amongst quarterbacks, finishing with 14.4 fantasy points. That's unacceptable, Tim, for a guy that everybody drafted top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I like Drew Brees, but I kind of still think of Drew Brees from, 5-8 years ago. So he's not the same guy. He doesn't do it the same way.
And Michael Thomas is out. I want to make a note of that. Michael Thomas is out. So you want to keep that on your radar if you are starting Drew Brees. That may or may not play a factor. He's got Jared Cook. He's got a ton of other options that could step up. So now, we're talking starts and sits. So let's talk about this. Who do you start? Do you start Traquan Smith, Emmanuel Sanders? I would say based on last year, Emmanuel Sanders had 5 targets, 3 receptions. So with Michael Thomas out maybe couple weeks here, And, I'd probably go Emmanuel Sanders, but look for Traquan Smith to possibly be a solid DFS play. And again, I'm going to talk about that on the Saturday DFS show.
And to be honest, I haven't looked ahead at the tight ends here, so I haven't looked at tight end matchup, but no matter what, I'm looking Jared Cook for sure.
Oh, Jared Cook's going to eat this week, man, especially with Michael Thomas being out. He's definitely going to eat. And Tim, I remember we had a little bit of a debate when we were doing a mock draft. We were doing a fantasy football mock draft. You said, oh, man, I'm going Michael Thomas early first round. Now, I can't predict injuries, and I wasn't saying that, but he had such a pinnacle Cinderella year that it was just so hard for him to come back and say, hey, man, I'm going to have 185 targets, 149 receptions. The guy that was second to him in regards to receptions last year was McCaffrey at 116, and then it was Keenan Allen and DeAndre Hopkins. So I just don't see any way he was going to duplicate that. So already right off the bat, luck fades out and he's already injured.
Okay, so here's the thing, though. My argument was I don't care if he loses a little bit of production.
Yeah.
Yes, the injury is going to really affect it. However, my thing was, yes, he had such a pinnacle year. I don't care. Even if he loses 50, 60 points, I believe he finished 80 points ahead of the next closest wide receiver. So even with a reduction, I was happy to take him. Probably as a 3-4 type pick. In fact, I had the second pick in one of our leagues, and I took Saquon, and that didn't work out for me so hot last week.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I just saw this meme come out. It's actually pretty funny, and it had, that typical meme where it's the guy holding the girl's hand, and he's kind of looking back.
Yeah.
So he's looking back like he's getting attention. So the girl, like, how the girl's like, if you guys haven't seen this meme,
she's giving him a disgusted look.
Like, the girl that's holding his hands, giving him a disgusted look, and there's another girl walking by, and he's turning back looking like, ooh, that's really hot, and the other girl's walk. You guys know the meme. So in this meme, it had basically the guy holding the girl, and the girl the hot girl walking by. It said running backs you haven't heard of that scored 1 touchdown week 1, and then you're starting running backs that have actually been proven. So it's like Saquon. Yeah, he didn't have the greatest week, but really, are you going to start a guy like, I don't know, James Robinson or whatever the hell his name is? Like, how do you even do that? I mean, this is your starting guy. I mean, Saquon had a tough matchup. I mean, it was a tough matchup against the secondary of Pittsburgh. But again, that won't continue. I don't see that happening. Saquon, when he did run out in free space, he looked really good. So, yeah, are you going to start Boston Scott over? Like, don't ask me these starts and sits questions. James Robinson over Saquon Barkley. Boston Scott over Saquon. Don't ask me these questions. Like, Saquon Barkley, start him. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
We talk about this all the time, and I say I'm not the guy who's always going to start my starter. But when it comes to a guy with the caliber of Saquon, yes, for sure, I'm going to start him every friggin' week.
Apparently, I read a meme where Tiki Barber, I think he was a former Giants running back. It's been a while, Tiki Barber. Nobody cares about this guy. Coming out after the first week performance, coming out and saying that Saquon is not a 3-down back or something like that. He doesn't have good pass protection. One bad game, and everybody, the critics are coming out, ripping into Saquon Barkley. Give it, guys, 1 week. Yep. He's the workhorse back. They're not going to bring anybody else. That O-line still needs some work. I mean, they drafted Andrew Thomas, but they still need some work. So
here's another funny thing I want to talk about. All these guys that start messaging, hey, who should I drop? Should I drop this guy because he was really bad week 1? Like, guys, it's week 1. Yeah. You don't panic, man. Yeah. Give it 2-3 weeks, feel things out. I mean, unless the guy was absolutely horrible and just looked like trash, you can't just throw away these players that you picked, especially if you put some high prices on them.
Let me just recap this to you real quick. I'm just going to pull up 2019. It was, I could pull up week 1. I don't even have to pull it up. You guys understand. I think it was like Sammy Watkins or one of these guys had like 2 or 3 touchdowns week 1. It was like this anomaly type week. And I'm telling you guys, it doesn't work out like that. Sometimes your starters are just going to be your starter. It's the week. There was no preseason. Like, give them a little bit of a break, okay? Let's move on here. Wide receivers, optimal matchups at each position. So let's start off again. We usually start with the optimal guys. T.Y. Hilton, Paris Campbell, Michael Pittman, Zach Pascal. All around, the Colts do have a good matchup against Minnesota secondary. Now, I want to make a note here. This is very important when you are looking at T.Y. Hilton. A lot of people getting turned off T.Y. Hilton last week. But listen, I believe he had 9 targets, and so did Paris Campbell. T.Y. Hilton is the starter. Again, I think they were a little jittery week 1. That's going to be better, guys. Believe me, T.Y. Hilton should have a good year. He's not the same T.Y. Hilton from a couple years ago, but I still think he's going to be safe. I think he's going to be solid. I think he's going to be a producer this year. again, people are in panic mode. If you have him, maybe consider getting, if you guys already got Paris Campbell, I think Michael Pittman's still going to be the guy that you only had 2 targets last week. Zach Pascal, 3 targets. It seemed like the target getters were Paris Campbell and T.Y. Hilton, Tim, but I mean, I wouldn't give up on T.Y. Hilton after 1 week. I wouldn't.
No, man. And I have T.Y. stock, and I'm like, well, crap. It was an off week. He'll be back.
Yeah, good matchup. Edelman, decent matchup at the wide receiver position this week. Allen Robinson against Giants. I think he's got a pretty favorable matchup. We saw Anthony Miller stepping up. There was some drama in the news. Allen Robinson, apparently we're hearing that he wasn't happy with the Bears organization, had a discussion with Nagy. It looks like things are smoothed over. Robinson's ready to win. Obviously, I think he wants to just get paid more. I don't know, man. I think he's going to eat. Like, I don't know what your thought. Mitch Trubisky, again, had a good game, but I don't know. It's tough. Mitch Trubisky's still a little uncertainty with him in this offense here.
Yeah, this should be a good game for both Robinson and Miller. I think both of them will do pretty well, at least those mid-teen numbers, but one of them's going to go over for sure.
Also, good matchup here. We got Devonta Adams coming off a phenomenal week. I mean, unreal against Detroit. Him, Lazard, Marquise Valdez-Scantling, all set up for a good matchup. Allen Lazard, Marquise Valdez-Scantling both had similar type games, around 18 to 20 points a game, not combined, but on average between both two guys. Yeah, who's gonna emerge there? I mean, I'm kind of sold on Allen Lazard because he's got a higher ceiling. MVS, we saw him last year, didn't get a chance to shine. I'm going to be watching this. I think they're still fighting for the number 2. I'm going to say Lazard prevails here, but either way, they've got a good matchup this week, Tim.
Exactly. So don't feel bad about playing any one of those top 3 receivers there.
Yeah, I haven't heard much on Kenny Golladay. I think he's still bagged up. I heard he's questionable, did not participate in practice on Wednesday, leading up to week 2 matchup versus Green Bay. Kenny Golladay, still a little banged up, hamstring. That thing could linger. Marvin Jones came in, didn't have the greatest game. And understand, guys, Marvin Jones was a little inflated last year. He had one game where he had like 4 touchdowns. I don't think he's that good. I think when Golladay comes in, he's obviously going to get a ton of the volume there. Even Amendola had around 13 points last week. Not really sold. If Golladay plays, look for him to get some targets. Although this is really good for Hawkinson, who had a good game week 1, and that could be due to part because of Golladay being gone. Right, Tim?
Yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah, sorry. I'm like, yeah.
He's zoned out. He's like, what did Hawkinson have last week? Hawkinson had a good game. I think he had we're not on tight ends yet, but I think like 14. I think that's what you were looking up.
It was good for Hawk. I mean, I'm not a fan of his at all, but whatever.
All right. Amari Cooper, good matchup this week. 49ers wide receivers, hard to trust. They're all banged up. I'm not going to start any 49 wide receiver because, there is no true one there, and they're going to spread the ball around. Adam Thielen, another good matchup as well. I guess Indy's secondary coming off an amazing week. I hope they get Justin Jefferson involved there as well. Could be a good flex play if you have Jefferson. Just didn't make the impact that I thought he would. But you're a Thielen owner. You're a proud
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, man. But let me tell you, I was scared in that first game. It was horrible at first. Almost all those points came in the second half.
Yeah, man, you got lucky there. I mean, even with Matt Ryan, like I said, being a Matt Ryan Falcons fan and owner, I mean, the guy doesn't get going till the second half, and it's like mid third quarter he gets going, and that's kind of a scary thing. But what you see with Ryan is what you get, and you're going to get 20 points, knock on whatever game. Other guys that have a good matchup, Jerry Judy looked pretty good. If Sutton comes back, could dip into that. He dropped a few balls, which was kind of weird. He never dropped a lot of balls in college. Dropped a couple balls in that game there. He's got a pretty good matchup, but against Pittsburgh secondary. So, I mean, against wide receiver, it's not bad, but against the rush, they were a little bit better against the rush, but Judy could get some volume.
Yeah, all around Pittsburgh's a great defense, a little weaker, well, quite a bit weaker in the receiving game, in the pass.
Yeah, I mean, their rushing was great, man. They put a lot of pressure on quarterbacks, and they neutralized the run game, but when it comes to wide receivers, maybe some things could open up there, maybe in the slot for I'm losing his name here.
Jerry Judy?
That's it. Yeah. I'm multitasking here. All right. So let's go to some tough matchups here, Tim. Some guys that you may want to consider sitting, but again, if they're your starters, Tim, you can't sit these guys. But
if they're amazing talents. I mean, so I'm looking at the top team right here, or the hardest one, and it's going to be Washington. So Terry McLaurin has the hardest matchup. I can sit a Terry McLaurin, no problem.
Yeah, I mean, you got to start him. Stephon Diggs.
Diggs, I still don't think Diggs went very high, right? So his capital wasn't that high. Yeah, he's the wide receiver 1 on the team. Super tough matchup this week. I'm sitting his butt too, no problem.
Yeah, you got to understand. He's playing Miami. You're like, oh, Joe, how does he have a tough matchup? Because we've matched up the corners. We've looked at the matchups. We looked at which corners are playing that player, and it varies based on position. So I got to make a note of that. You guys got to understand. Sometimes as a whole, defensively, yeah, they could suck, but certain corners play different wide receivers, and that's why we kind of base this off of. So you guys got to note that, okay? Like Baltimore, tough defense pretty much all around here. So when you're looking at Fuller and Cooks, they've got a tough matchup. So those are two guys I want to talk about for tough matchups, right? Fuller having a pretty decent week last week, but has a little bit tougher this week, okay? So be aware of that. DJ Chark. How do you pronounce it, Tim? Do you pronounce it Shark or it should be?
I would say Chark. Yeah, Chark.
It should be Chark. I know. Everyone just calls him Shark. Has a tough matchup against the Tennessee secondary. Laviska Shenault. I mean, he had a good week last week. Is that going to continue? I don't know, but be cautious with him as well. Now, this is interesting. Chargers secondary, their corners are pretty damn good. So when I look at a guy like Tyreek and Watkins, they do have a tough matchup. But Tim, we talked about these guys. Now, if you got Tyreek Hill, if you drafted him in the first round, you should be cautious with him because, again, very volatile. Had he not got that touchdown, similar to, your Thielen guy coming at the end of the game, Tyreek was saved by that touchdown in the end zone, and that was it because he really wasn't getting a lot of volume, Tim, with these receivers.
Yeah, exactly. So 16 points, I think, last week. Sammy Watkins, 22. I mean, nothing to brag about. And now they're playing a tough D. It's Kansas City. They always find a way. It doesn't take much for Tyreek to break one and get some huge points. Give him one 40-yard pass and a touchdown, and he's okay for the week.
But it's frustrating because a lot of people, and I avoided Tyreek Hill in the first round. I was going running back. But what's frustrating with this offense is that not you, but people drafted Tyreek Hill, end of first round, early second, let's say. And he had 6 targets for 5 receptions. And Sammy Watkins, who literally went undrafted, who would draft Sammy Watkins? Like, I wouldn't. Like, the guy's shit the bed pretty much every single year. I mean, the guy had 9 targets. He out-targeted Tyreek Hill. And I know it's week 1, but that bothers me, Tim. It really bothers me. And that's why I kind of stay away from these receivers. It bothers me.
Okay, but that's kind of like the old AB Juju conversation, right? AB's getting all the double, triple coverage, so it leaves Juju wide open. Same sort of deal here, man.
Yeah, but you don't know who's good. Like Demarcus Robinson also got 6 targets, so he was kind of the number 3, right? And then you've got McCole Hardman who had 1 target, but he could come in. And then remember, Byron Pringle came in last year, had a good game or 2. So it could be either one of these guys. That's why they're so dangerous from a reality perspective. From fantasy, I'm staying away now. You could roll the dice and grab one of these wide receivers as a value play in DFS, but it's a dice roll. You don't know who's going to go off, but if he does go off, you've got a great lineup, right?
Right. And so once again, this week, Tyreek has a tough matchup. Don't have huge expectations. Don't be expecting a 20-pointer. If you're going to start him because he's your starter, be lucky if you get 14, 15 out of him.
Yep. Let's move on here. A couple more tough matchups. Robbie Anderson versus Tampa Bay. Pretty tough matchup there. Had a good game. But again, Robbie Anderson, boomer busty kind of guy, but has he broken through that? And will he prove to be the number 1 target there in Carolina for Teddy Bridgewater? Yet to be seen. Week 2 will be a better indicator. Technically, DJ Moore is supposed to be the one, but Robbie Anderson destroyed him in fantasy points week 1, and I had him started in the league. So I'm excited about that. Tyler Lockett, Metcalf, tough matchup versus New England. Be cautious. But again, if they're your options to start, you can't sit him, okay? And Hopkins got a little bit tough, had a phenomenal week. Will that continue? Will he continue to get the volume? Who knows? And Robert Woods had a great week 1. Cooper Kupp have a pretty tough matchup against Philly secondary, so keep your eye out on that. Anything else, Tim, with these guys?
No, man, other than to say that Cleveland has a fairly tough matchup as well. So, let's see what Odell can do.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, let's talk about that. I'm not sold on Odell at all. I'm not sold on his offense. I think Landry's a little banged up. It's going to be interesting to watch. I'm basically watched because I'm right. I want to see Kareem Hunt get more involved. This is more of a, I was right game. And we'll see. Maybe Nick Chubb will come out and rush for 150 yards tonight. We don't know. We really don't know. And this will be a key indicator. I'm going to be watching this running back committee, and tonight we'll know after tonight who it's going to be. Is it going to be Chubb or more Hunt moving forward? Tonight's going to be a good indicator.
Yeah, man, this is a tough matchup all around. They've got a good rushing and passing defense, so we'll see what happens.
Week 1, Kareem Hunt won that. Okay, so let's get. I'm going to open up my app here, guys, and again, you guys can. There's a link below here on YouTube. You guys can text me your starts and sits, and we will get to them here on the show. And you can leave your name. So a lot of people here I'm checking didn't leave their name, and you could go ahead and do that. So we're going to start our Q&A here, starts and sits. And again, this may cover some of your questions as well. And again, guys, if you are listening in the car, head on over to my Insta at Fantasy Football Counselor. There's a number there. Just text me, and I'll get to you, and I'll open it up, guys. See, I've got the app right here, guys, and I've got, look, and you guys can see here all of these questions. All the yellow are just things I haven't even opened. I could go on. There's probably 1,000 here, but let's just get through these. Let's get through a couple of questions. Tim, you can help me out here. We'll go through it. All right, start and sit question here. Flex question. Hollywood Brown, Hilton, and Singletary. That's a great question here. Tim, I'm going to go with T.Y. Hilton here.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, we were just talking about wide receivers. There's a matchup here. There we go. Now, again, Hollywood Brown could be good, but I was kind of hesitant on him because Andrews is the number 1 target for Lamar, and they run the ball a lot, and Lamar likes to run. So be careful. Okay, this is a question I get a lot, and I get this asked a lot, Tim. I need your help on this because, again, it's really a coin toss, and okay, the question is start or sit. Would you start Gurley or would you start David Johnson? Now, before you answer this, Tim, technically Gurley's got a slightly better matchup versus the defense. And then David Johnson's got a tougher matchup. I think he's playing Baltimore. So when you look at this, Tim, I mean, David Johnson had a bit of a better week. I think the volume will be there for David Johnson. My quick answer to this is start both if you can. I mean, that's
a cop-out. Come on.
No, hold on. I got to have an answer for this. But here's the thing. Like, what bothers me with starts and sits, I don't have the lineup in front of me. Like, I mean, can't you just start both, or can't you just start one and flex one? Because I like both. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
who's the third option, right?
Is it a 4-man league? Is it an 8-man league? Like, we want, like, you know what I mean? There's more. I need more insight on this and more perspective. But I'm gonna go with David Johnson. I know it's a tougher matchup. He came out strong, chip on his shoulder, and that's just predicated on volume. I think they both have a good game. I think Gurley could outscore David Johnson coming off that slower week last week. If I had to choose, I'd probably go David Johnson based on the momentum of last week, although it is a tough matchup for David Johnson, easier matchup for Gurley. That's my answer. Do you agree, Tim, or would you go Gurley?
No, actually, I'm saying David Johnson, and it's not as hard a decision for me. I don't see Gurley being used so much in the passing game right now, and that's what he might need on a day like today, well, Sunday, when he's playing, because it's a tough game all around. Defense and pass, or rushing and passing defense is really good, so I think he's in for a tough game. So give me DJ this time.
Okay, I got another good question for you. Start or sit? Now, this question, I know the answer to it, but I got to talk about it. Austin Eckler or Todd Gurley, start and sit. And I'm telling you, I've got 0 Austin Eckler stock. I don't care stock this year. Even if he finishes, Tim, even if he finishes top 3 in PPR, I've got 0 stock, and I'm okay with that. Last week, 19 attempts, Tim, 84 yards, 4.4 yards per carry. Not bad. He's not a running back, a pure rusher. But what's scary for people that drafted him, now he finished with 9.7 points, is Austin Eckler, your stud, the guy you drafted at the end of the first round. Now, it is week 1. But if week 1 is an indication of things to move forward, he had 1 target for 1 reception. 1 target, 1 reception. This is where he thrived, Tim, in the receiving game. Guys, he's got Tyrod Taylor. Phillip Rivers is not there. This is why I stayed away from him. Joshua Kelly, on the other hand, 12 attempts, a little less attempts, but had more fantasy points, 12 points, because he had the rushing touchdown. So goal line work, touchdowns, go to Joshua Kelly. Receiving game, if there is one, if there is Tyrod throwing the ball out, goes to Eckler. To answer my question, Austin Eckler, Todd Gurley. Gurley is an easy answer for me. What are your thoughts?
No way. I don't know how you hate Eckler so much. Last week was an off week for Eckler. That's all it is, plain and simple. Yes. You're gonna
go Eckler over. I'm gonna rip into you next
dude. I have been off Gurley all year. I've been saying it, and Eckler is typically a PPR machine. It was just an off week for him, and so this is one of those things that kind of makes me laugh. Everybody talking about Eckler, and no, he's coming back. You guys are nuts.
We'll see. You will be wrong. We're gonna have a discussion. If we should have a bet. I should bet you my new PlayStation 5.
Hell yeah.
That curly. All right. I should put that on the line, Tim.
I will go streaking if I lose this bet to get the PS5.
So you better hope Austin Eckler gets more points because you got yourself a new PlayStation 5 on release date. Woo! All right, let's go. There you go. Okay, this is a good one here. Now, again, I get these dice roll. Who knows, right? Terry McLaurin or DJ Shark. I'm going to go with Shark here because we talked about wide receivers matchups. McLaurin's got it a little bit tougher, man. This is
both
a
are tough. Yeah, both are really tough. Do you not have a better third option? Like, come on.
This is what I get stuck. And I say start both. They're both technically wide receiver ones on their team. And we don't know the context of the questions, but hey, I get these questions all the time and it is what it is. Here's one for you, Tim. You're going to like this one. And I know the answer, what you're going to say, but I got to go. We're not at tight ends yet, so we haven't really analyzed them and talked about it, but Hearst or Higbee. I mean, I know you're a Hearst guy. I don't know. This one's a tough one. Again, another dice roll, both good options to start. What? I mean, Hearst has a mid-range matchup. He's got a mid-range matchup. So Higbee's got a slightly easier matchup because Philly versus tight end, they're not as good as, let's say, Dallas would be. I'm going to lean Higbee. What are you saying?
Yeah, so you're making me jump over here to check out what everything's going to be. I mean, the immediate thought off the top of my head would be to go with Hearst.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of looking, where is Higbee? So what's the matchup? You said both of these are like middle of the road matchup.
No, Hearst has got a mid-range matchup. He's playing Dallas, so it's a bit tougher for him. And Higbee's got an easier matchup versus Philly. I'd say I think I got him here at 10th easiest matchup versus position for Higbee, and then mid-range matchup for Hearst. 14th hardest for Hearst. So,
damn, dude, that one truly is a coin flip for me. I see Higbee's numbers too, the last 3 games. So he obviously going into last week, he was not very good.
Both of them had around 7 points last week. It's not like one of these guys had a good week. And these are the dilemmas that I face every single week. And it's like you could start either one of these guys. I mean, both of them are starting tight ends, and they're in good situations where their quarterbacks like them, right? I mean, when you look at Matt Ryan, though, I mean, they got everybody involved last week. Is Gage going to be more of a thorn, or are they going to use more Hearst, right? We don't know.
I'm gonna stick to my guns and go with Hearst just because Atlanta has a tough game this week, and him being middle of the road, I think he's going to see a few more of those passes that maybe went to Gage last week.
Yep. I got another one for you. Okay, moving on here. This is a really good question here, actually. This is a tough question. And, Joshua Kelly or Benny Snell. Now, we all know James Conner got hurt last week, and I feel for him. Tim, I really feel for James Conner because at the end of the day, the guy's got a lot of heart, cancer survivor. This guy is pure lion mentality. And the guy just can't stay healthy. His body's just not holding up in these games. And he may be out this week. I don't know how far he's going to be out. I haven't looked at the severity of his injury. I'm not a Conner owner particularly. But Snell came in, made the best out of his opportunity last week, had a good game. So when you look at Snell, when you look at Joshua Kelly, we talked about Joshua Kelly's numbers being good, having around 12 fantasy points last week on 12 attempts. We know he's going to get that goal line work. With a guy like Snell, he's going to get the attempts if he gets that start. And they were pretty impressed with his start. This is a tough one, man. I'm going to lean, I think, Snell based on volume and opportunity if Conner sits. Whereas, Kelly's still technically competing with Eckler. So I'm going to give the slight edge to Snell here.
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. And I'm not calling Joshua Kelly the goal line guy right now. It was week 1. He got 1. Yippee. Congratulations, dude.
All right. Fair enough. I think he's going to take that starting job potentially.
I think you're drunk.
All right, let's. Do I trade Aaron Jones? Someone asked me. I'm going to say, depends on what you get for him. I'm not Aaron Jones stockholder. Apparently, this is what I heard because we have, if you guys aren't following Fan to Fan Network, follow below. You get a lot of inside information from all of the top influencers for every team, every YouTuber influencer below fantofannetwork.com. Go check the site out, guys. Head on over there right now. I'm beyond excited about the site. I go there, I get all the news from all the guys who watch videos. Anyway. I was just hearing from Bosarowski, our rep there and his writer there for the Packers, that they are really liking A.J. Dillon. Now, I didn't watch A.J. Dillon come up, but I think he came out, had a couple rushes. I don't know. I think it was like 14 yards. It wasn't much, but I think they're going to start using A.J. Dillon more. Yeah, it was 1 attempt or something like that. 2 attempts. He had 2 attempts and ran for a couple yards. Either way, they liked what they saw from the brief glimpse of A.J. Dillon, which I think is going to be the future. At 14 yards, that's what he had. I don't know. Maybe he's going to get used more, but I'm not sold on Aaron Jones having the same type of year last year. I would try to get a trade here, Tim. Would you?
Once again, it depends on what you're getting in return. I'm still fairly high on Aaron Jones, at least for the first 4 to 6 weeks. So I do you hold him for a couple more and try to get something even better for him? That's the question. Right now I would say no, I'm not trading Aaron Jones. Not unless the trade is really good.
All right, so here we got a good question here. Okay, got a good question here. Hey, Joseph Robert, I'm Victor Lamont. So Victor Lamont, I don't want to show his number here, but there. Shout out to Victor Lamont. Oh, there it goes. Oh, off screen. All right, so Victor Lamont. I lost the question.
You dink.
There it is. Okay, I got it. Hold on. There's Victor Lamont. So I want to shout you out. Hi, Joseph Robert. I'm Victor Lamont. I'm a fan of your show. My question is your take on Saquon. Was that game just a fluke? Was it bad O-line or just Steelers defense? Is that good? And I'm going to say it was a combination of both. I think it was bad O-line, and I think the defense was phenomenal. Dupree was just the pressure he put on Daniel Jones in that matchup. Saquon just couldn't get a rhythm. I mean, Slayton had to get into his zone. So I think Slayton I love Slayton this year. I mean, I had him as a sleeper. I love him. They just had to get into a groove. Evan Ingram dropping some balls there. I think as an offense, they were a little shaky. I think they're just going to create more opportunities this week for Saquon Barkley. So it was a combination of both. Am I worried? No. Slightly a little bit just because that O-line. That's my question. But am I worried overall? No, because the volume will be there. The talent is there. And I think they had a worse O-line at the end of the season last year, and Saquon was thriving. So just have that in the back of your head. Saquon will eat. Don't worry. A slight concern, but don't worry. That's my thoughts on this.
Beautiful, dude. Drew hit the nail right on the head.
Yeah, I did. All right, so let's move on here. Let's move on to tight ends here. Easiest matchup versus position. Let's rip through tight ends. I mean, no one's really going to start this guy, but he's got a pretty easy matchup versus tight end. Is Dan Arnold. I mean, I'm not really going to start him, but he's got a good matchup versus tight end. Other guys here you might want to consider. Pittsburgh's tight ends have a good matchup against Denver's defense versus tight end. But again, Eric Ebron didn't have a great game, and we know Ben likes his receivers, so I'm staying away from those guys. This is an interesting one because Baltimore doesn't play tight end as strong. Jordan Aikens there could get some volume, and he looked pretty decent week 1. I actually like this guy, Tim, for a DFS play this week, and I liked him off a good waiver wire pickup. Jordan Aikens came alive last week, Tim.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Was it an anomaly? Like, Darren Fells is a big dude. I like Darren Fells. So I think last week they went to Aikens instead of Fells, and this week I think it's going to be the opposite.
Actually, you know what? They both had 2 targets. They both had 2 receptions. The difference was the touchdown with Aikens, right? So, yeah, you're right. It might be an anomaly. You're absolutely right. It could be and might as well be, right? I can't even talk anymore. I'm so excited. All right. I'm mumbling my words. All right, Hunter Henry, let's move on here. Pretty easy matchup against KC secondary. Good tight end matchup. Had a decent week last week with 12 points. Evan Ingram, man. I mean, you got a pretty decent matchup this week, but 3 points last week. You dropped the ball. Literally, don't know if I trust you. Mark Andrews, and man, if you're looking at him at DFS, he is expensive. $6,300 on DraftKings this week. 23 points. Phenomenal game last week, and I don't blame you if you want to start him in your DFS lineup. He is going to thrive. Yep. And how about your man, Darren Wallerton, 11 points last week.
Of course, we know that. I mean, Carr always to the
tight end. Here we have Higbee, another easy matchup. We talked about him. And those are your easy matchups at tight end. Let's go. Tim, do you want to run off a couple guys that have a tough matchup at the
Yeah, man. Let's see what we got here for the tougher matchups. Oh, Mr. Kyle Rudolph, you have the toughest.
Rudolph, the purple-nosed reindeer, tough matchup here. Gesicki coming off a safe game, 6 points, has a tough matchup as well. And we talked about Jared Cook. Now, again, starts and sits questions. Michael Thomas out. Cook's got a tough matchup against the Raiders. Okay, I'm telling you, they play tight ends tough, and I still like him. I don't care about the matchup. I'm starting Cook. If I got him, I'm starting him, Tim.
Absolutely, I agree.
Zach Ertz against the Rams. Got a bit of a tough matchup, but do you sit Ertz? I mean, 11 points last week. Dallas Goddard having the better game. And I hate Zach Ertz for that reason. He's so expensive in your drafts when you draft him in year long. And yet Goddard comes in week 1 and just tears it up. And he was undrafted for the most part. That's got to piss a lot of people off, Tim. I'm telling you.
Yeah, to me, this is a 1-2 punch, and it's going to continue to be a 1-2 punch. So last week it was Goddard being the recipient of the majority of the points. This week it could be Ertz, but they both have a pretty tough matchup. So don't look for anything amazing here. Look for that 10-point that I always talk about tight ends getting.
Yeah. Now, do you sit Kittle? He is questionable, right? He did not participate in practice on Wednesday leading up to this week 2 matchup versus the Jets. Do you sit Kittle? I'm going to say that knee sprain. Did you watch that? Did you watch that hit?
No, I've probably seen a replay of it, but it's not sticking out in my mind.
I can't remember if he caught the ball or if he was running, but either way, if your knee was like this, it's sticking out. It hyperextended in, so it was kind of like it went inwards. It looked kind of bad. So he went offline hobbling. I think he might be good. I personally might not start him, just maybe the fact that he A, may not play, or B, if he does play, will be limited. I'm probably just going to stay away from him.
Yeah, I mean, see what your options are. See what happens game day. Is he on the out list? If he's in and you don't have a really good option, play him.
Yeah.
It's not a super tough matchup, and overall the defense sucks. They're a little better against tight end, but, if he's good to go, I play him.
Yeah. Interesting one here. I like a mid-range matchup is Logan Thomas, 14 points last week. He came alive, man, and I like him. Playing on Washington, you never know. I mean, they might be looking for a good outlet receiving target. Logan Thomas could be a fantasy football sleeper. Keep your eye out on him. Travis Kelce, I mean, you got to start him. He just gets the ball whenever he gets the ball. And you said Hayden Hurst, mid-range matchup. I mean, start him, right? I mean, if you don't have a better option. And Fenton Hawkinson also worth to start, having great first week ones. And I expected this type of performance with them last year. They're a little slow to get going, but I mean, draft capital was very heavy when they drafted them with Denver, and especially Detroit with their Hawkinson pick. So they're going to eat, man. And I like these guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, move on to running back. And again, I try to be all encompassing. So I'm sure at some point or other, your question was answered in this episode. So let's move on to the running back position here. Let's start off with the tough matchups. Drake versus Washington, tough matchup. Let's rapid fire. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I mean, phenomenal first week, and he is great. And
how do people say phenomenal first week?
It was good.
My God, the holes in that team were so huge. I could have run through them.
All right, this week will be a telling tale. Again, we're going to come back to this one. So we got a lot of side bets going on here, Tim. But I think I'm not really a huge Helaire fan because his draft capital was so expensive for a rookie. I was getting Jacobs where I could have got Helaire. I mean, I'm not a huge diehard, I got to have this guy, but I mean, the attempts were there. He had 25 attempts. I mean, the volume was there, 5.5 yards per carry on those attempts. They believe in him. They believe in him.
That was a fairly easy defense. This is his test, boys and girls. If he can come out and if he even puts up 15 or better, I'm happy. I'm sold on Helaire.
Chargers defense, they're going to play him tough, and they've got a weak footage to watch on tape, so it's not going to be a surprise. They're going to play it against him. So I'm really interested to see how this goes. Now, one thing you got to note about Clyde Edwards-Helaire, we noticed it, got stuffed at the goal line. I counted 4 times, might have been more. So my question is he going to be effective in the red zone? That's going to be something to watch, right? That's something to really watch. All right. Melvin Gordon, I mean, Lindsey should be out. I mean, he was a little bit banged up. He did not participate in practice. I mean, I would say Melvin Gordon should have a safe game, but it is a tough. Actually, you know what? Stay away from Melvin Gordon. He's playing Pittsburgh.
It's tough.
I was just thinking based on volume with Lindsey being out, but man, does he have it tough versus Pittsburgh. He would be a sit if you don't have a better option. I mean, you got to start him. And Dalvin Cook coming off a safe game because of his touchdowns, but didn't have a good game overall. Playing Indy, I think he's going to have it tough this week, Tim. Dalvin Cook.
I would agree. However, the team as a whole with their defense isn't that great. So Cook will still find a way, whether it's going to be in the receiving game or the rushing game. Don't care. He's going to be safe. I'm a little bit scared, but, he's one of those guys where he's your starter. You put high capital in him. You got to start him, and he'll do okay.
So I'm going to give you 3 big names here, and they've got tough matchups. Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, David Johnson. Jacobs playing the Saints defense, coming off a big game. Do you sit him? Hell no. Aaron Jones, tough game against Detroit, in their rush defense, and David Johnson against Baltimore. All relatively tough matchups against the rush defense, but do you sit these workhorse studs in year long? I'm going to say no. If you want value plays at running back, maybe a smarter option for DFS. But I'm going to go ahead and start all these guys. I mean, why wouldn't you, right?
Agree. The one that kind of scares me the most there would actually be Aaron Jones. However, he'll find a way too. I mean, 26th ranked defense overall. So pretty weak Detroit defense. I'm giving it to him.
All right. I want to note here, a lot of people jumping on the Snell train, understandably so, right? If Connor's banged up. Now, Connor did not practice on Wednesday as well, is questionable. Snell should get that starting job. People are all over this, and I understand why you are, but he is playing against Denver. Now, what's his name? Henry. Henry had a good week last week, but he was struggling on certain runs, and that was Derrick Henry. He got stopped behind the pretty much smoked behind the line of scrimmage. I never thought I'd say this. Derrick Henry took a hard hit behind the line of scrimmage. Can't remember the defender's name. And, now Snell's coming in. I think Snell's going to struggle against Denver. I'm not seeing him having a huge game this week, Tim.
Yeah, I agree. So last week he put up 14. Yeah, he'll be lucky if he gets around the same this week.
Yeah, a couple mid-range matchups. Let's talk about this one. Who do you start, Cam Akers or Malcolm Brown? This is another tough one, similar to Jonathan Taylor and Nahim Hines. Now, you got to start Jonathan Taylor. He's going to get all the volume in regards to the attempts, but Hines is going to be involved in that passing game, so just be aware of that. It could be a thorn. But Cam Akers and Malcolm Brown, this is very interesting because Malcolm Brown was that running back years to wow us, Tim, and guess what? We weren't wowed. Yeah, we weren't wowed, right? Exactly. So, he had a huge game, and I was really predicated on the fact that I think he got 2 touchdowns. So Cam Akers, the guy, he's the young guy. He's the guy they put a lot of stock in. Will they get him more involved this week? That's going to be something to watch. Okay, so I don't know. As of right now, I'm a Cam Akers guy. Malcolm Brown picked up off waivers. I would probably ride the hot hand with Malcolm Brown maybe this week, but heavily put it under a microscope, Tim, with the situation. I'd be watching the situation.
You're right. I think Cam takes it over eventually, but right now I'd play it safe with Malcolm.
Yeah. Saquon Barkley, easier matchup versus Chicago. It's a mid-range matchup. All right, let's go to some easy matchups versus position. And I hate to say this. I never thought I'd say this, but you might want to consider starting Peyton Barber.
What?
I know this is crazy. He's getting the goal line work. If you got him, maybe a flex play. He was the guy in the red zone. He sucks so bad.
Yeah. Like every year or the last 2 years, everything you've said has been Peyton Barber sucks. Peyton Barber sucks.
Oh, he's terrible. I don't have any Washington stock, but I'm saying if you have him, if you were cursed enough to have him on your team, you gotta start him as a flex unless you have a better option. All this hype around Antonio Gibson, but what do you have? He had 9 attempts last week. Not something to get excited. Well, you look at Peyton Barber. Peyton Barber is going to get used around that goal. So if you want a touchdown, at least if you want the guaranteed 6 points or whatever you're going to get, whatever your league settings at, Peyton Barber is going to get some work, Tim. He's got an easy matchup as well.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you.
He's a decent play and for a good price. So
yeah. So solid, sneaky play for DFS. I'll give you another steal in DFS. Not bad is Ronald Jones. Leonard Fournette didn't get any work last week. So Bruce Arians sticking to his word, making Ronald Jones the guy. But I think Fournette takes that job eventually. So another running back committee you want to watch. Again, I've stayed away from this committee as well, Tim.
I think it's just a matter of time for Fournette to get more comfortable with the team, be happy with their routes and stuff like that. So I easily see him knocking RJ out.
All right, other easy matchups. Henry should run over Jacksonville's rush defense. Love him this week. Peterson had a good week. He has a good matchup against Green Bay. And then, Todd Gurley, a pretty easy matchup. So going back to that question, man, I'm going to go David Johnson, but I might kick myself in the nuts because I think Gurley's going to tear it up this week. I really do.
It is possible, man. It's a true coin flip, but I'm still a DJ guy as well.
Other great starts, Jonathan Taylor, Zeke Elliott, Alvin Kamara, and of course, good old Christian McCaffrey against Tampa Bay's rush defense should run wild this week yet again. And he is, do you know what his DFS, do you know what his price on DraftKings is right now, Christian McCaffrey?
I see him at 10 grand right here on this one.
$10,000 if you want to secure him because he gets those points, right? When is the decline? 10.5 on FanDuel. When is this guy ever going to go down? When is he going to go? And I'm not wishing bad on him, but man, how do you have such perfect pinnacle games almost every single game? It's remarkable.
This guy is Superman on the field. Never mind Cam Newton. This is Superman.
He's crazy. He's absolutely crazy. So there it is, guys. Starts and sits. We kept it under an hour, but this is all encompassing, Tim. All encompassing. Leave a couple of your questions below. I'll try to get to as many as I humanly possibly can, Tim. I don't know what to tell you. I'll do my best. That's all I can offer, right?
Yeah, I mean, you try to hit a lot. I get on there from time to time, and I'll answer some if I can. You guys that are naysayers and talk crap about me, yeah, I don't mind telling you to lick my balls either.
Oh, my goodness.
That's
Tim.
right. You go back and check a couple of the last episodes. I told one guy to lick my balls. I don't care.
Oh, my goodness, Tim. You're really letting
I don't take it personally, guys. It doesn't matter to me. I like to laugh and joke around at everything. So if you can't take it, too bad. You're a baby.
They're really ripping into you, Tim, these guys.
Sometimes, yeah, it's all good. Some of them rip into Tom even. Like, people love you, people hate you.
Yeah, Tom gets a lot of good because his breakdown of tape is really good, but occasionally he'll get like an occasional, who is this Tom guy? I don't, because I think he, and a lot of things is taken out of context. A lot of things he says or what I say, like he said something like he doesn't like Kyler Murray this year for certain reasons. He's still a suspect quarterback, still getting into the group. And someone said he flat out said Kyler Murray sucks. He never said Kyler Murray sucks, but yet they're putting words into Tom's mouth, which is great.
Nobody knows more about that than you, man. People always do that crap with you.
Oh, I love this one. I said last year, we'll end this off on this. Last year, I said Darwin. This was before the acquisition of Shady McCoy on the Chiefs last year. And I expected Darwin Thomas because I was visualizing him as an opportunity the same way Clyde Edwards was. A small, compact, strong back. I think he would have been a great fit for the Chiefs offense prior to the acquisition of Shady McCoy. And yet I said stash Darwin Thompson as an RB5, 6, at least an RB4 at minimum, right? And people were like, hey, you told me Darwin Thompson round 1. I'm like, I never said Darwin Thompson round 1, right? So, yeah, man, things are taken completely out of context. And, it's very common in this industry.
Yeah, or it's one of those where you said, I think you might have said DJ in round 1, but everybody will say, no, you told me DJ number 1 overall.
Now, I did draft him first overall in one of my leagues, but he was top 5 across the board. So it was like, pick, right? It was not like I was doing anything complete. I was 4 guys off an ADP when I went and reached for him first overall, and that was in one league. And people were just ripping on me. You told me this and that. You told me, like, dude, like I control what you do. Like I control everything it's up to you guys. You have your own free will. I give you my best educated decision and my choice. And all right, guys, I didn't tell you anything. All right, let's go. Well, actually, I do tell you advice, but it's up to you guys if you want to take it. And most part, I'm right. So we'll end it there. All right, Tim, we're out, man. We'll talk soon.
Right on, brother. Have a good one.
Have a good one. Starts and sits week 2. Enjoy the games.